So welcome to our live chat with Chaddock event. We just would like to say thank you for joining us this evening. We are going to just give it another minute or so and see if we get a few more people joining us. Just something to point out to you, if you would like to use the Zoom webinar chat space, you'll find it at the bottom of your screen. You can use the chat space to just put general comments, answer questions if we put questions out there for you. But if you have specific questions that you would like for us to answer, if you want to go ahead and put those into the Q&A box, which you will find also at the bottom of your screen, you can hover over it. If you want to put your specific questions in there, that would be great. That way we can try to answer those as we go through over the next hour. My name is Kirsty. I am the Knowledge Center Manager here at Chaddock. And if Marsha and Brooke would like to join me, and Marsha, if you'd like to introduce yourself, that would be great.
Hi, I'm Marsha Ryan. I work at Chaddock with Kirsty. I've been at Chaddock for 31 years. I currently am in the Foster and Adopt building and also do in-home intensives. That's what I do here, as well as trainings or whatever else anybody wants me to do.
And I'm Brooke Linenfelser, Associate Director of Clinical Services. So I oversee the clinical department in residential as well as the in-home intensive with Marsha.
Okay, so we are going to jump right in, and we are going to try to answer some of the questions that you guys might have during this time as we as you are trying to navigate parenting during the pandemic and the challenges that come along with that. So we've had one question. Let's see. It says, playing games with my children isn't fun. They argue over the rules and pout if they lose. I tell them up front, if they act up, we're quitting. Do we have any ideas on how to make our games go better? So how can we make games for our kids better, maybe more enjoyable, maybe a bit more where we're in control? Who wants to start with that one?
I can. Oh, we've all been there. Our kids are just so not fun sometimes. You know, here's the thing with games. It's really up to the adult to really put on that happy face and make that game the best game ever. And oftentimes kids will come down reluctant. You're going to make us play games again. That's so stupid. But if you make it fun and if you're laughing and be silly with it, they will eventually, you'll have to get a few eye rolls and, let it go. Starting the game with if you guys act up, we're quitting is not a good way to start, okay? You can start with, all right, guys, we're going to have a lot of fun. And so start with a really good attitude. If they start bickering, intervene. I mean, we even just talked about correcting today. Intervene really quick. Knock it off. Maybe position yourself where the adult is sitting between the kids so that they're not like arguing amongst themselves, and then you can go knock it off. But really, it's going to take a lot of energy and effort initially, and so you want to get at least a couple of fun. Always end on a positive, okay? Always end on a really fun game. If you have a poor sport, try to find activities that are no winners and no losers, that you can challenge each other as a team, as a family, like how many hits can you hit, keep the balloon up in the air, red light, green light, walking like funny animals, things like that that engage everybody. If you're a highly competitive parent, probably not a good idea to like do the slam dunk and say, yeah, I would, know that it's fun, trying to be fun and entertaining for the kids.
I like that idea of doing, making it like a family event instead of one against the other, because so many kids struggle with that. And like you said, somebody always is the loser in that situation. So really like that. Let's actually do it as a team challenge, or even just can you beat your own score instead of can you beat the other person's score?
Right.
And I was just going to add, be aware of, what you were doing beforehand. So if it's a low energy activity game that you're doing with your kid, like a board game, make sure there's some type of physical movement before you sit down and play an activity. As well as, when was the last time they had something to eat or drink before you're going to settle down?
I was going to say, if they haven't eaten or drank, make that board game, throw some popcorn and some Kool-Aid or whatever at the table and let them munch. That just really brings to life a whole family environment.
Mm-hmm.
Something else I thought of when you were saying, Marsha, about, starting the activity with, if this happens, then we're not doing it kind of thing. I was thinking about those kind of like a side swipe to that and almost offering a choice and saying, well, we can choose to play this and have some fun, or we can choose to sit and read a book or something that is less preferable for the child. I'd like to sit and read a book, but our kids don't necessarily want to do that. So we're kind of saying the same thing, but we're doing it in a different kind of way. And we're allowing the kids to feel like they get a choice in this matter. So.
Yeah. If you have like little ones, like 3 and 4, put them on your lap and let them like pick the card and move. So they're really included into it. That's how they learn to take turns and be patient. And that way they're not distracted and, trying to distract everybody in the other room, yelling. So put them on their laps and let them play.
Okay, so, all right, we had another question here. How do we motivate kids who don't want to do schoolwork? Brooke, I'm going to hand this over to you to begin with, because I know you've got 2 boys at home who probably don't particularly enjoy schoolwork at this time.
I'm telling you right now, since we've been doing this for about 2 months, it's all about compromise. Like if you do, one assignment, then we can go do an activity, or, it's just, we're kind of scraping by right now. So I don't have a great answer for that. Because
that was probably her question. Incognito.
Well, it's nice. To me, it feels nice to know that other people are in the same, in the same boat. And here we are, we work with kids on a daily basis, and we still have times when we struggle. It's not easy. And it's certainly not perfect. You have days where it's easier to help the kids get motivated. And then you have other days, just like for us as adults, where it's really hard to motivate everyone to get things done. But you had a good response. Compromise.
Yeah.
I like that. Making the assignments shorter, making the time that they're doing the schoolwork is shorter, and seeing if you can, because it's getting warmer and they're going to need to be moving more. If you could say, okay, do the odd ones now. Let's go out and then go outside and play, and then come back and do the even ones, instead of doing a whole sheet, which when you've got 15 math questions on one sheet, to me, that's overwhelming anyway. And so that compromise of, okay, just do the odds and then go outside and play, come back in a half hour and do the evens. And while you're gone, I'll grade it and we'll go from there.
And I've noticed, like, my boys, they do better with me just sitting next to them. Even if they don't actually need my help with the assignment, me just sitting there, it has a supportive feel to them, and they'll trudge through whatever assignment they're working on.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that, but I've noticed that when you bring in that closer proximity, especially if you're doing some work too, helps them feel like, okay, we're all in this together, and we've all got things that we need to get done before we can move on to something that's a bit more fun. Something that crossed my mind, and Marsha, you kind of touched on it, but is, again, providing choices. Would you like to do the odd questions first or the even questions first? Do you want to do your math now or in the afternoon? And then, when the afternoon comes, if they say the afternoon, okay, remember you made that choice, that means we've got to get our math done now. So
being aware, again, that we touched on, but if you're going to do it in the afternoon, try to get the subject that the kids struggle with, whether it's math or English or social studies, right after they've eaten good and had something to drink, right after, peanut butter jelly sandwich, piece of fruit and milk. Then throw the hard subject at them, because then their brain is going to be ready to kind of stay focused.
Okay, so going back to kind of our first question about playing games with our kids, we've had a question here that says, what are some examples of no competition games? So games that don't involve competition.
Oh gosh, I can give you like lists of them. So any balloon games that that's what I'm doing right now instead of because of this. Any balloon game to keep it up. Racing, you can do obstacle course and try to beat your time. Like you can do it in different ways, like crab walking, walking backwards, and try to beat your own time. Ping pong balls, we're throwing ping pong balls to see if you can get them in the cups and see how many you can get. Red light, green lights, walking like funny animals. I mean, I can actually, if people are interested, come up with a whole list of non-competitive activities and put them on our website, because this is something that, I mean, we do at Chaddock, we do it, with our own kids, just because, we don't always want to have a winner and a loser. We just want to have a lot of fun. And, I always say an old maid, who says the old maid is the bad, is the loser? Why can't the old maid be the good person? And so, it's however you structure the game, but I can put up a list, have it up on our website if that's what they're interested in.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a great idea, Marsha. And perhaps the three of us can kind of pool our ideas together and we can put something together. I was thinking about maybe even like a scavenger hunt that you do as a family around the house. Again, so it's not one against the other. It's, any kind of team activity where we have to work together.
Bubbles, hot and cold, where one hides the object, hides some objects and they go get them, and then they trade turns. And the next person gets to hide the objects and do hot and cold. Those are fun. Those are always a hit with the kids. So yeah, we can do that.
Do you guys have any ideas of any activities that we can incorporate some education into as well? And, it doesn't have to be algebra education. I'm thinking simpler education. I mean, when I think about a scavenger hunt, if you were going for a walk outside, you could incorporate some kind of science stuff and looking at what the kids find and that kind of thing. I don't know if you guys.
You can be really specific on your, if you want to really be detailed on your scavenger hunt, you can say, find an oak leaf and it looks like this, find a pine cone and it looks like this. What kind of tree does a pine cone come from? So you could really, find an acorn. You could be really specific in your scavenger hunts. You can make squeeze balls, and part of that is science, or how much flour you put in and how much glitter to put in and how much, and so, you could do science with that. And so I'm sure that we can come up with some ways that are even educational.
Yeah, and I was going to add like fishing. I mean, learning about fishing and just the whole how the life cycle. So you got the minnows, you got the frogs, and everything like that. And teaching the kids about that is pretty big.
That's a good idea too. Yeah.
Yeah, and teaching them a skill. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Insect collecting.
Oh yeah, insect collecting. Well, as long as
How many bugs can you bring into the house? That might go over not so well.
Yeah, or the kids may find some, big audacious spider that you don't want near you, but they're fascinated by it. So.
Yeah.
Okay, our next question. This one says, I'm tired. I still work full time. How do I keep a good balance for myself to help support my family? Brooke, I know you've mentioned this before in our webinars, but you have a really good strategy. What do you do in the morning?
For me, my self-care is working out. So every morning before anybody gets up, I work out. And I know not everybody's a morning person, so that's not going to work for anybody or everybody. But if you can find some type of self-care, whether that's sitting outside, drinking your coffee, reading a book for 5 or 10 minutes, anything, meditation, before everybody wakes up. So you're taking care of yourself right at the start of the day, before you have to start being a mom, you have to start being a professional and a teacher all in one day, and the cleaning lady. Let's add that in there. So, and then, we've talked about how at transition times, that's where we see struggles. So right before lunch, can you do another small activity where you're taking care of yourself? And right before dinner, before you start preparing that, take another 5 or 10 minutes and give yourself a break. Even if it's just that you go in your room and you're in quiet for 5 or 10 minutes, that's going to help you be your best.
And it's okay to tell the kids, mom needs a break. Dad needs a break. So we're all going to take a break, because what you're doing is role modeling. You know what? They get overstimulated, they get tired too, and they can now know how to ask for a break. And kids generally don't want to take a break. They don't know when they need a break. So we have to put those breaks in there for them. So as Brooke said, either right before lunch, right after lunch, whatever, your typical little kid nap time is, you know what, give yourselves a break. Tell the kids, okay, you all have 20 minutes in a designated area. If you've got a couple of kids that share a bedroom and they fight, don't put them in there, because then you're not taking care of yourself, because you're listening to them fight. Put one in the living room, one in the kitchen, and then you go into your room and take 15, 20 minutes to yourselves. And really, really important.
The other thing I was thinking was as well, really working, if you have a spouse, if you have 2 adults in the house and can do this, working and talking with them and having the conversation about, we need to even perhaps trade off days where, on a Monday, I get to really take my half an hour and that's my time. And then on a Tuesday, we switch over and you get to go for your time. Really trying to have those honest conversations about, we need to have some independent time to ourselves. And I think if you're a single parent and juggling, I think some of the suggestions you guys have come up with have been great, and not being afraid to say, okay, kids, if as long as they're physically safe and able to be in their room, it's time for you to go into your room for 20 minutes. And if that means having some tablet time for 20 minutes or screen time for 20 minutes, then that's okay, because you need that time too in order to stay sane throughout the rest of the day.
Well, and tag team it, if there is a spouse in the moment where you're like, okay, done, need a break. You can even literally go up and say, tag, you're it, I'm going to my room for 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. And if the kids are going, mom, you can go, dad's there, talk to dad, mom's got a break, So it's a real visual. Dad knows he's in charge, mom needs 15 minutes. That's the beauty of having a 2-parent household. Mm-hmm. You can use that as a tag team.
Okay. All right. So the next question we've had is, my child is scared of the virus. She doesn't want to go out. She can't sleep by herself. And the news is scary and overwhelming. And she's 8. So I think what might be some suggestions that we could give to help this parent support her child as they are experiencing this pandemic?
Marsha, you've talked about this one before. You want to share what your recommendations are?
It's really important to not overshare. It's really important to talk age appropriate to the children. And if they can understand it and tolerate it within themselves, You know, say it is a scary time. Everybody's scared. But we're going to keep everybody safe. Mom, dad are going to keep you safe. And we're going to do this by everybody's going to wear a mask. Everybody's going to wash our hands whenever we touch anything. And at 8, they're really trying to figure out their feelings. So their anxiety is even heightened. And, you know, if she's got a good or he has good verbal skills, they can talk about they're scary. So that, you know, and the parents just need to be, instead of saying, well, that's not going to happen. Well, that's not going to happen. You know, validate their fears and help them process them, and, you know, and then find coping skills to relieve their anxiety. I would also say, you know, give them opportunities to go with the moms or the dads to the stores and see, okay, yeah, things look a little different. People are wearing masks, everybody, but we're all going to get used to it. So
if
that would be one of the things. And just making sure to say, we're going to keep everybody safe. You know, and that's going to have to be the
child
kind
is
of the,
scared, Marsha, though, and doesn't want to go, would you recommend doing like smaller trips out though, rather than, okay, we're just going to go, kind of maybe easing the child into it?
yes. Go ahead, Brooke.
Yeah, like an easy quick trip could be like you're going to get takeout somewhere and they ride with you, and at some restaurants you're actually going in and picking up takeout. So can they just walk in the empty restaurant with you to pick up the food?
Yeah. I think I said something not too long ago in one of these where a mom had told her kids, and it appeared that she overshared, because this kid is wrapped in his coat and going, don't get near me, I'm going to die of COVID. Don't touch anything, Mom, you're going to die of COVID. I mean, that was clearly this, and he was 5, 6 maybe. And, you know, and it's all well-meaning. You know, if you do want to teach these kids, okay, do not be running through the stores, do not be handling anything. We don't want to get the virus. You could get the virus and die is not probably something that you want to share with the younger ones. But you want to make sure that they know it can make people really, really sick. And we don't want to spread that to make people really, really sick. And maybe teaching the 8-year-old, here's what we're doing to keep everybody safe. Keeping you safe, Mom and Dad are going to be safe, Grandma and Grandpa are going to be safe, everybody's going to be safe, and here's how we're going to do it. So as long as we're doing these things, we're going to be safe.
Mm-hmm. And I would limit the exposure of them hearing actually the news and the governor speaking every day. And then if you could have private conversations with your spouse in regards to what's going on when the kids aren't around, that will also help hopefully lessen the fear, because they're not hearing it every single day, what's going on and what's the recommendations from the governor.
Mm-hmm. You got a good point, because that makes us anxious when we're hearing it. And what we know is when we're anxious, we project that anxiety to the kids, and they feel our anxiety, and that they have anxiety. And it happens really young kids, and it happens to really old kids, older kids. Older kids' anxiety comes out in so many different ways. So good for the 8-year-old for being able to say, hey, I'm scared. I don't want to go out. I don't want to die. You know, I don't want to get sick with the virus. Help him or her kind of normalize what's coming next, and I like the smaller trips.
Well, and I like what you're saying, you know, if this is a child who is able to verbalize, you know, their thoughts and feelings pretty well, you know, I agree with Brooke, reduce the you know, turn off the news. The child doesn't necessarily need to be hearing that, but at the same time, sit down with your child and give them a chance to ask their questions, knowing that instead of watching the news and having those questions and answers be all confused, is that you're giving them some direct answers that are filtered to be appropriate for them. Yeah. You know, because at 8 years old, most kids, I would think most 8-year-olds are able to have a conversation about this. that's age appropriate. So I think, again, like you said, Marsha, validating what's going on for the child, and giving them some insight that's age appropriate to them.
I mean, the news is very scary. And if you look at, if you hear the first 5 minutes of the COVID report, it's like over 1 million people had this and over this many people have died. And it's like that, just those first few lines alone, that catches my attention. And it's like, wow, more people have died, And if this is a little kid, little kid's biggest fear is the loss of mom and dad. And one of their biggest fears is the loss of their parents. And now we're talking about, okay, we all have to wear masks because we don't want to get the COVID. Oh my gosh, going to get the COVID and die like all these other people, it just really creates that. So limiting the exposure to what's on TV, absolutely.
Okay, so here is another question, a bit of a shift in the topic. So now that school is coming to an end, how do we keep our kids' minds engaged? And I kind of want to add something to that. Another kind of piece of the question, what do our schedules and structure look like when school comes to an end? Because it's very easy right now to tell our kids, okay, we've got school time. It's school time from here to here, and this is our schedule. So how do we keep our kids' minds engaged? And should we, or does it look different, our schedule and our structure, when school finishes?
I think naturally it will kind of take a different shift, because right now we have a little bit higher structure than we would in the summertime. I would give the kids one chore a day, so that they have, at least some expectations every single day to provide that structure, but also, being aware that we need to fluctuate their day. So like having a high activity, low activity, and going back between those two. So then their days become predictable for them.
But it's the activity that changes, exactly, it is a lot looser in the summer, and it's easier to start with a very tight tight schedule and loosen it up than it is to come at it with a very loose schedule and then tighten it up. Yeah. Because that is, why are we doing this? We didn't do this before. So starting with a very tight schedule and loosening it up is a lot easier. The kids can adapt to that a lot better than they can if you're tightening up.
So, okay, Marsha, so currently we have our kiddo on, we have school time in the morning, and then we have kind of a break, and then we have lunch, and then we have school time in the afternoon, and we have a break until, dad's home from work, and then we do other things in the evening. So what I'm wondering is, if I was thinking about keeping my schedule tight to start with, is kind of keeping that schedule, but instead of the schoolwork time, we perhaps do something that still has some educational background to it.
You can do like that could be arts and crafts time. It could be reading time. It could be, watching the History Channel. It could be Lego building time. It could be drawing, anything that is not really electronics, but more low-key, hands-on, let's wind ourselves down kind of activity.
Okay. So I could essentially keep my schedule the same, but we'd be doing something different during those times that wasn't work.
Yeah, and if if you've got the older kids, give the older kids a choice. Okay, we've got this and this to do, but in this hour, here are your choices. Or what would you like to do? Well, most of them are going to say, well, I want to get on the screen. Well, okay, let's compromise. How about half of that time you're playing video games, the other half you're, reading, or you're coming downstairs and playing Legos, or, so you're kind of compromising with them, because any free time a lot of kids will go straight to the electronics. And so we really want to tighten that, set the standard early, and then when you need a break, you can say, you know what, I'm done today. Mama needs a break. You got an hour of electronics because I need a break, you know. So free time, go. And, you know, and they know it's a special privilege.
Mm-hmm. Brooke, did you have any other thoughts or suggestions on that one?
Just when Marcia brought up electronics, that's something I would stay on top of right when summer begins, is knowing what their max every day is on electronics and sticking with it. Because if we let them have free reign, that's when we often see a spike in behaviors, because they're just so engrossed in, you know, and focused on those electronics that it's hard for them to come out of. It's almost like a fog. It's really hard to get them out of that fog if that's what they're doing.
I always, and then the parents say, turn it off now. You know, I always say, it's kind of like you've spent 2 hours, watched a movie, and you're just getting ready to find out who the killer is.
Yeah.
And they shut the TV off, and we don't have DVR or anything. Now you're like, what? Ah! You know, because you want to know who the killer is or whatever. The ending of this show, probably shouldn't say killer, that's probably inappropriate, but that's kind of the kind of shows, you know. Anyway, so it's just one of the, that's just how it is. And then the kids, like, you know, explode, lose it, then the parents, then the fight's on. And so keeping it tight, keeping it really so that they know what to expect. That's a time that they can tell their friends, I'm going to be on playing my video games this time. And you know, then frankly, then it can carry over to adulthood. So then you as a nice spouse can tell your parents or tell your other spouse, okay, I'm going to play video games. Can I play video games between this time with my friends? And then they all get together. So.
And Marcia, you brought up a good point. We need to be giving them warnings before their time is up, like 15 minutes prior to, because, you know, maybe they're getting to like a really important part of the game and you're like, it's time to go. And then you're going to see somebody explode if you do that. For it, then they know it's coming, and it's you get a different reaction out of them.
You know, I've learned a lot about Fortnite through time, and you know, you say, you know, okay, so how much time do you need? Oh, well, 45 minutes. Oh, no, 45 minutes don't work for me. And then say, how much time till you can end the game? Well, I can end the game in 15 minutes. Okay, then let's end the game in 15 minutes. You know, because some of those games can just go on and on and on.
Well, and it's such an easy strategy for parents to use, is just that, those warnings and the, you know, okay, do you want 15 minutes more or 10 minutes more? And, you know, that kind of thing. They require such little energy from us as parents to just throw out those warnings. You just have to keep an eye on the time. You know, hey, you've got 15 minutes. Hey, you've got 10 minutes. And it is amazing how much difference just giving those warnings makes to that transition. And then if the child is still struggling with those transitions, you know, having that conversation with them and saying, wow, it seemed like it was really hard, even though I told you kind of 3 times before it was time to come off the game. You know, tomorrow night we may have to finish earlier because it seemed like it was hard for you. So, okay. Here we go. What are some activities we can do as a family away from the house while still practicing social distancing? Brooke, I know you guys have a good one for this.
Yeah, we fish all the time. Boys love fishing. So we do that. We love to bike ride. You know, there's different parks in town where there's trails you can walk on. You can go through the creeks. I would say anything where you can get outdoors. Wow.
Be careful going to the parks with little ones because they don't understand why you can't get on the swings. And so if you're going to take the little ones outdoors to the parks, make sure it's like where the playground equipment is not visible because you're going to set yourself up for misery.
I totally would have done that, Marsha. I'm so glad you brought that up because that thought hadn't even crossed my mind.
Yeah. They don't understand, you know, and even though the tape is on there, they still don't understand. So take them to like ballparks or parks that you know them well enough to know where the equipment is that you can just kind of take a walk, and that's where you can pull out your scavenger hunt, your nature walk scavenger hunt, or take a soccer ball and go to an empty soccer field. Or I saw on it must have been on Facebook, a dad and his son, and the son was really little, like 5 or 6, and he hit a home run. The dad was pitching, he hit a home run, and he's little, and the dad cheered so loud. It's just him and his dad, and grabbed him up and picked him up. That boy, you could have thought he hit a home run in the major league. You know, that's the experiences we need to be giving these children. You know, take them out and let it. We're going to play baseball again. We're going to play softball and soccer again. Give them this time to develop their skills. And, you know, I'm not a soccer player, but I am a heck of a cheer mom, and I can cheer them on. So, you know, we can cheer them on and tell them what a great kick it was. And don't be critical. This isn't a time to be critical. It's just a time to say, oh, that was a good kick. Okay, keep going. Oh, you almost made it into the goal. So you're really their cheerleader.
Yeah, and again, putting in the effort to make, even if it's maybe they've been moaning and groaning about going on a bike ride, you know, if we can make it fun, then the kids are more likely to enjoy it. And it's all about us pushing through that resistance of them moaning and groaning about doing something. Although
I would do a bike ride on TCBY Dollar Day.
Just to say that, actually, my boys and I will ride our bikes to TCBY. You have to ride your bikes through the drive up, and my boys think that's hilarious because we have cars in front of us, we have cars in back of us, but yeah, we're riding our bikes through the drive up.
See, that's so good. And when they're older, they're going to say, you know, remember, Mom, we had to ride our bikes through the drive-thru. They're going to remember those experiences because that was fun and entertaining, not necessarily the reason why.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's another question for us. How do we respond to the emotions our children have as a result of not getting closure with their teachers?
That should be your work.
Well, I mean, if you have Zoom available, I know it's not the same, you're not in person, but if you can do like a Zoom call with the teacher towards the end of the year, which I know for my boys, it's next week, having them write their teacher a card and mailing it to them. I hear about a lot of kids like just going by their teacher's house and like waving like through the door. The parent will call that teacher and she'll wave from the front porch. If you could do something like that, I think that will be helpful for them.
I'd love to see, and I know they did it in my hometown in Barrie, where the teachers did a teachers parade. Mm-hmm. And went through all the little small towns, and they orchestrated it so everybody knew. They contacted all the parents, and they went by. It's a small school, and I know that, but you know, having some kind of orchestrated, you know, parade can, you know, help put some closure to that.
Yeah.
And I like, Brooke, I like your idea of perhaps doing a Zoom. And I was thinking when you said about mailing a card, even if we can't get a card in the mail, maybe even having your kids make a card and showing it to the teacher on Zoom, or taking a picture and sending it to the teacher if you're able to, depending on, you know, the age. I know our kiddo, you know, she has access to you know, online Google or something where the teacher can see things. So being able to send something on there.
You know, if you had a really involved teacher, you know how exciting a kid it is when you get mail.
Yeah.
You know, I don't care how old you are. If you get a card or something, you get excited in the mail.
That's
And so if you do a lot of talk, so it's like, oh my gosh, you got a card from the teacher. You know, that would be really cool. I know it gets really expensive if you have a big class, but that would be, every kid would like jump for joy if they got a card from their teacher.
So how else, so those are some ways we can help with the kids getting closure, but how do we help them with their feelings about it? You know, not being able to actually see their teacher in person or see their friends in person to say goodbye. You know, some of our kids would be going on to a different school in the new school year. Some of them are graduating. So how can we help them emotionally manage those feelings? Well, first of all, Marsha, what kind of feelings do you think our kids might be having right now?
Right now, I think they experience a great deal of confusion, loneliness, sadness, would be kind of when I think about what kids feel when unexpected departures happen, you know, whether it's unprepared leaving of the school. I think that they went on spring break and never went back. At least in our school, they did. And so there was no time to say goodbye. And so it's that feeling of emptiness, loneliness, you know, am I going to have friends when I get back? What are my friends doing? Feeling left out. And so I think the first and foremost, really validating, you know what, you're right. You do probably feel very lonely. We're not your friends. We're your family. And I know you didn't get to say goodbye to your friends, and you may not see them, but we're going to, you know, next year, you may not see them over this summer, but we're going to make a point to, once we can, maybe go out to the parks and see if we can find your friends. So just really validating. And, you know, and don't just say, oh, you'll see him again next year, because that's really dismissing them, dismissing their feelings. But really hear them out, because it's really lonely. You know, these kids are really lonely. Kids, the older they get, the more, as part of child development, they have to push away from parents. You know, that is natural progression through stages. And, you know, now they're like on top of their parents. You know, everybody's piled on top of everybody, and they can't go through those developmental stages as smoothly as they should. And when you're, you know, 8 to 10, you should be developing your peer group, what you're good at, and you know, that's not happening. So we need to make sure that we're giving them those experiences as quickly and as soon as we can, so they can have those developmental stages. I went off topic and went to developmental stages, but I just thought about that because that is so critical, you know, that 7 to 11, 12, where they're really developing their skills and their peer group and who am I, their identity. Mm-hmm. And so we have to really validate their concerns and validate their learningness and reassure them that this isn't going to be forever. And when we can get back to being with our friends, we'll get back to it as soon as we can. So.
Well, and even the younger kids, Marsha, you know, I think about preschoolers and kindergarten and first graders who are also going through their developmental stages, and a lot of what they are going through revolves around peer group, you know. Yes. Whether it be learning, you know, appropriate social skills and etiquette to, you know, learning how to be together and that kind of thing. And, you know, some parents may be feeling very frustrated because their child has these needs, and it's really hard to meet that as a parent who is trying to work from home and manage their child's needs.
You got a good point there, Kirsty. My grandson was going to daycare, and he was learning to share really well. Well, when all of this hit, my daughter took him out of daycare, and because she had lost her job, and so she stayed home with him. And you could see he went back to, you know, taking the toys from his cousins and throwing fits, and on top of the anxiety that she was having and was being projected onto him. And so we talked about it, and I said, we talked about the anxiety and how to relieve that, but we also talked about developmentally, he needs to be with other kids his age so that he learns how to share. And so the first opportunity she could get him back into daycare, because he's the only one at home, she put him back in daycare, and he picked those skills right back up. So it wasn't like he lost the skills. He picked them right back up. He's getting along with his little friends. He's getting along better with his cousins. So it's just the first opportunity you can get them back involved.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Another question. My kids think they should get to stay up later because they don't have school. What is a responsible time for kids to get up and go to bed? Brooke, what do you think about this one?
I would say that's based on their age, and also then, what you need to do. So if they're younger kids and you need to go to bed, they have to be in bed when you go to bed because you have to get up and work the next day. And it's also based on your child and how many hours of sleep that they need. So like my youngest, he does fine with about, like 9 hours of sleep, and he can wake up and be fine. My older one, since he was like probably 1, he's needed 11 hours of sleep. So it's all based on each kid. He's clockwork. 11 hours, he wakes up.
So if the kids are saying that they should get to stay up later, so I'm envisaging this bedtime routine, and I'm trying to get my kid to bed, and they are getting angry, perhaps being defiant. I don't want to go to bed. Everybody else gets to stay up. I don't have to go to school tomorrow, so why do I have to go to bed? How might me or another parent handle that? Like, do I handle it in the moment? We talked about power struggles before, what are your suggestions? Marcia, what do you think?
First off, I think there needs to be really some pretty clear routines and rituals at bedtime. And so what are your routines and rituals? To me, bedtime starts the minute they get out of bed, okay? Because you have a whole list of things you want them to get done before it's bedtime. And who doesn't love bedtime, right? So,
well, this kid obviously doesn't enjoy it. Later. Maybe starting at like 1 o'clock, you can say, okay, guys, tonight we have to take a shower. We want to go, we want to watch this on TV. We want to go for a walk. And bedtime is everybody's in their room at 8 o'clock. So we got a lot to get done. So we need to stay focused. I agree with Brooke. Depends on their age, depends on their need for sleep. The younger ones need more sleep. So that time, those should be pretty rigid, regardless of if they're in school or not. The older ones, you want to at least have enough of a routine that they know at such and such time, 9 o'clock, they're in their room, or 10 o'clock, they're in their room. Doesn't mean they have to go to sleep, but they have to be in their room. Mm-hmm. So that the whole downstairs is quiet. You start the whole, as some of the rituals. You might have, your shower, your bath right before bed. You might have your snack right before bed, a family show or something very calming right before bed. You're turning, you're getting the environment ready for bed. So you're turning the lights down. You're turning the volume of the TV down. You're calming everything down. So it's not only in, your body is calming, the environment is calming down. You're walking the kids up to their room. You're making it a special time for them. If you can give each kid, 10 minutes of time, whether it's reading a story, playing a card game, just chit-chatting, doing, your daughter's nails, or putting lotion on your son's legs, or whatever the case may be. It's that 10 minutes of really special time that is incorporated into this ritual. Initially, they're going to think it's weird and stop their why you found me to your room. But once it becomes that ritual, that's what we're doing. They kind of look forward to it. You might get a little snarky, but for the most part, once it becomes, this is what we're doing,
they kind of do it.
So kind of standing your ground and sticking with it, despite the resistance. Brooke, what do you think? Are there any compromises I could offer my child if they're starting to be a bit, showing more resistance? What might be some compromises for kids at bedtime?
I would offer, like what Marcia said, like they have to be in their room, but hey, you can be reading a book, you can be playing with your Legos and things like that. So I would say that that's where the compromise could be. And this all goes back on the different ages. So if they are older, okay, you can stay up, but I need you to be quiet. So because the rest of us are going to bed. And
don't forget the reminder, but you still have to be up. You can stay up later, but you still have to be up at such and such time.
Mm-hmm. So then the next morning comes around and we have our kiddo who's struggling to get up. That maybe would be the time for us, once they're up and awake, to have that conversation of, you were able to stay up later last night. I let you do that. And you asked. And so I allowed you to stay up to a certain time. But you didn't get up on time this morning. And that's telling me that you can't manage to go to bed later. So, you can go to bed at this time or this time. And, let's say they went to bed at 11 the night before. I might say you can go to bed at 10 or 10:30. So I'm still giving them that choice, and they're going to choose 10:30. That's okay with me. But we're bringing that bedtime to earlier.
Right. Yeah. And making sure, that conversation definitely needs to be had, but making sure that you're strategic in that conversation. Don't hit them just as they're rolling out of bed. Give them some time to wake up, get their breakfast in them, or whatever their morning rituals are. Once everybody is up and moving and they appear regulated, say, you had a hard time getting up this morning and I let you stay up, so it's a good conversation. It's not, see, I told you so. Let's stay up late. Now I didn't get. See, I told you so. We all kind of had those. Don't think we've all had those moments.
Absolutely. Well, and it goes to what Brooke was talking about earlier about allowing yourself. We have to compromise ourselves in terms of, okay, I need some of me time in the morning before the kids get up. That may mean I have to get up a little bit earlier. So if you've gone through your process, then you're going to be less likely to be in that, oh, see, I told you so state of mind. You're more likely to be in that state where you can sit down and have a conversation with your child. So, everything that we talked about really kind of connects with each other, and taking care of ourselves so that we can bring the best version of ourselves to our kids during those times.
Right.
Okay, so I think we've got time for one more question. Okay, what is the best way to get my kids to play better by themselves, especially if I have to focus on work? So my first suggestion is having them do something that they enjoy for a start. Don't try making them do a chore that they don't enjoy if you really have to focus on work and it's a time, I'm thinking in the moment. If I have to find something for the kids to do in the moment and they're struggling, I'm going to move them on to something that they enjoy. Preferably not screen time or electronics time, but, if it's not happening all the time, it's not the end of the world. And as Marcia, you pointed out earlier about if we can do it, if we can keep it structured, and then if there are extra times where we run into, okay, we've got to get the kids focused on something, they see it as a bonus, as, oh, I'm getting extra time on this. We just don't want to make it something that happens all the time if we can help it. So firstly, I would try and do something that they enjoy. But Brooke, what about you with your boys? Can they play by themselves? Do they get into disagreements, that kind of thing? How do you try to manage that?
So when I'm back at work this week, but when I was working at home, I would always tell my boys like my schedule. So like from 10 to 12, I cannot be bothered. And basically, unless somebody is hurt or the house is on fire, from 10 to 12, I need you to be able to do something by yourself. And I give them options. These are my ideas of what you can do from 10 to 12, and then they can choose what they're doing. But I've been on Zoom calls, and then I can hear them in the background and they're fighting. And then I'm like giving them the mom eyes.
Yeah.
So it's real. But we have to give them options, because sometimes it's like, I need you to entertain yourself for an hour. And it's like, where do we even begin? So trying to help them.
It's overwhelming when there's kind of too much to choose from for the kids. So I love that idea, giving them choices. And I know some parents even have, totes labeled. Okay, well, why don't you choose 2 of these options that you do while I'm doing this? So I really like the choices idea. And again, empowering the kids to make their own decisions. Marsha, what about
my thought went to divide and conquer. Put one in one room and one in the other room, and hope, and give them their options of what they can do, especially if they're a highly volatile mix, and you've got to stay focused. Then at least you can hear which one is like gravitating towards the other. And so one stays at the kitchen table, one might be in the living room, and during this time, you guys need to just stay apart, and here's what you're going to be doing, and then go from there. That was my divide and conquer thought. But
go ahead, Brooke.
I was going to say, that's one of the things that we do. If there's times where I just can't be bothered because of whatever work I'm doing, they're in separate rooms.
Okay.
Well, and offering, again, Marsha, offering them choices, and let's say they both want to do the same thing, but we can't have them in the same room together while they're not being supervised. So, okay, so I'm going to set a timer, and you're going to start with this activity, and you're going to start with this one. When the timer goes off, it's time to switch over.
Yeah.
And maybe we switch over again, so that we each get a turn at the things that we want to be doing. Much like they do at school. I think of, oh gosh, I can't think what they call it now, but, where they have different stations that they go to.
Right, yeah.
So, you could even set something like that up in your house with the kids' input, pick 4 activities that you guys want to move around on today, so that they're together, but they're not actually fighting over the same activity.
That's a good idea. I like that.
It's going to take a bit of prior thinking, though, on the parents' part.
Well, yeah, and you have to take some organization skills. So that I like that idea. That's a really good idea.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that could be something that you could work with your kids to set up on a weekend, maybe, when you've got a bit more bandwidth in your brain and you're not, exhausted from working, but getting them involved and saying, okay, on Monday, we need to pick 5 activities that we can do during this time. What can we do? So having the kids help you too, take some of that mental effort off of your shoulders as well. And also means that they're likely to buy into it because they've chosen the activities that they're doing.
Yeah, you can even write on your schedule, if you do one, it says stage 1 activity. And so they know, okay, we're going to section 1. That's our activity. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you could even go as far as having the kids draw out a map of the house and what activities in each part of the house for them to do, something like that. Just
right.
I think the more creative we can be, which again is really hard when we're tired and we're stressed, but the more creative we can be, and again, looping right back to what you started off with, Marsha, is injecting our own fun into the activities. If we can be energetic and enthusiastic about it, even if we're faking it till we're making it, then the kids are gonna have more buy-in and be wanting to do that.
Yes.
So
we have to make it the best game ever.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And they will, and then they'll start laughing, and then you'll actually genuinely laugh. So
yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, we are going to wrap up for this evening. Thank you guys for coming on here and helping me answer some of these questions. And thank you to everyone who has joined us tonight. The recording will be up on our website early next week, so look out for that. And if you need anything else, just reach out to us. You can find us online on our website and on our Facebook page. And just thank you for coming along.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.